Inside these pages lies a roadmap to conquering fear, overcoming pain, and transforming failure into strength. It reveals the relentless mindset forged in the harshest trials of Navy SEAL training and real life battles. Each chapter exposes brutal truths and practical challenges designed to push limits, build mental toughness, and unlock true potential. For anyone ready to stop settling and start living with discipline, grit, and unstoppable effort, here is the path forward. Chapter 1: I Should Have Been a Statistic. I wasn't born a warrior. I wasn't born tough. I didn't come out of the womb with some superhuman drive or mental edge. I came into this world already broken, already beaten down by circumstances I never chose. My life began in chaos, in violence, in fear. The kind of fear that seeps into your skin and lives in your bones. The kind of fear that turns a child into a ghost of himself before he even learns how to speak properly. My earliest memories are coated in blood and screams. My father, Toughness, ran a successful roller skating rink and club in Buffalo, New York. He wore suits, made money, smiled for the public. But at home, he was a brutal dictator, a man who controlled everything and everyone. His fists were weapons, and he used them freely. He beat my mother so viciously and so often that I became numb to the sight of her swollen face. Her pain was my soundtrack. Her cries were the lullabies that put me to sleep. And when I got old enough, I became his target too. He didn't just hit me, he dominated me. He ripped apart my sense of safety, of trust, of love. I learned that the world was a violent place and I was powerless in it. My brother and I were forced to work at the rink from a young age, long hours into the night, while other kids were home sleeping or watching cartoons. We weren't children, we were laborers. And when we messed up, the punishment came hard and fast. We lived in fear every second of the day. Even breathing wrong could get us hurt. But it wasn't just the violence, it was the silence. I never told anyone what was happening. No one outside knew. I didn't have the words, the courage, or the belief that anyone would care. So I learned how to stay quiet. I learned how to disappear in a room. I learned how to hide in plain sight. That's how I survived. When I was 8 years old, my mother did the bravest thing I've ever seen. She took me and my brother and ran. We left my father behind. We left the rink, the money, the house. We went into hiding for a while, then tried to start over in Brazil, Indiana, a small, mostly white town where the next phase of my hell began. I was the only black kid in the classroom. I didn't talk much because I stuttered so badly that the words wouldn't come out. When I did try to speak, the other kids mocked me. I couldn't read like they could. I couldn't do math. I sat in the back, confused and ashamed, while the world passed me by. My teachers thought I was slow. My classmates thought I was worthless. And the worst part is, I believed them. I believed every word. I wore dirty clothes. I smelled bad because we couldn't afford proper detergent or deodorant. I was still wetting the bed at 12 years old, not because I was lazy or gross, but because the trauma was so deep that even in sleep, my body was afraid. Every morning, I woke up soaked in shame, terrified someone would find out. I'd try to clean it up, hide the sheets, spray cologne on myself just to cover the scent. But I always felt exposed, like everyone could smell the failure on me. We were dirt poor. My mom worked nonstop just to keep us fed. Sometimes we didn't have enough money for heating, and we'd sit in the freezing cold with layers of clothes on, pretending we were okay. She was my rock, doing everything she could to give us a life, but it was never enough. Not because she failed, but because the system was rigged against us. Single black mother, 2 kids, no support, no money. We were forgotten, and I was angry. Angry at her, angry at myself, angry at the world. I started to see myself the way the world saw me, as a mistake. I had no confidence, no future, no identity. I was a scared, lost kid drifting through life with no direction. And the worst part? No one expected anything from me. No one ever said, "You can do more." No one pushed me, challenged me, believed in me. I was invisible. But somewhere in that darkness, a tiny voice started whispering. It didn't say much. It didn't promise success or greatness. It just said, "Keep going." That was it. Just keep going. And I did, even when I didn't know why, even when I had no reason to. I just kept getting up. I kept showing up. I kept walking forward, even if it was slow, even if it was painful, even if it felt pointless, because deep down, I knew there had to be something more. There had to be another life out there, one where I wasn't a victim, where I wasn't broken, I didn't know how to find it. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a role model. Uh, but but I had pain. I had rage. I had a mountain of suffering that I refused to let go to waste. And over time, I started to understand that pain could be power if I chose to use it. Every insult, every punch, every sleepless night, every day I walked into school feeling like trash, I remembered it. I didn't bury it. I didn't run from it. I carried it like a backpack full of bricks, and one day I would turn that backpack into armor. I wasn't born a Navy SEAL. I wasn't born a leader or a savage or anything close. I was born in the shadows. I was forged in the fire of abuse, poverty, and isolation. And I should have died there. I should have ended up in jail or addicted or dead. I should have been another lost name on a government form, another forgotten child. But I wasn't. Because even when I had nothing, no talent, no hope, no future, I still had one thing left. I had a choice. And I chose to fight. Chapter 2, Truth Hurts. There comes a point in every person's life where the lies can't hold up anymore. They start to crack under the weight of reality. Mine collapsed one night in my small, filthy apartment in Indiana, the same night I came face to face with the man I had become. And I didn't like what I saw. I was 24 years old, weighed 297 pounds, and lived like a ghost. My days were spent spraying cockroaches and rat piss out of kitchens for minimum wage. My evenings were a pathetic blur of chocolate milkshakes, junk food, and hours in front of the TV watching other people live their lives while I sat there slowly dying in mine. My body was breaking down. My spirit, that was long gone. I was stuck in a fog of denial. I told myself, it's not that bad. You're doing fine. It's not your fault. But deep down, I knew I was lying. I had spent years lying. Lying about why I wasn't trying. Lying about why I quit things before I started. Lying about my potential, about my pain, about everything. That night, flipping through the channels with greasy fingers, I landed on a documentary about Navy SEALs. It wasn't polished or heroic. It was brutal. Real. The camera didn't cut away from the pain. Men collapsing from exhaustion, screaming from stress, bodies trembling under log carries and ice-cold surf torture. I watched them carry boats over their heads, crawl through mud, and push themselves past what I thought was possible, and none of them quit. They looked broken, but refused to break. And for some reason, I couldn't stop watching. I sat there, this fat, defeated version of myself, staring at the screen like it was a mirror showing me everything I was not. Something stirred in my chest. It wasn't inspiration, it was rage. Why am I like this? Why did I let myself become this? What the hell happened to me? That was the first spark. That was the first honest question I'd asked myself in years. The next day, I walked into a Navy recruiting office and told them I wanted to become a SEAL. The recruiter didn't even try to hide his reaction. He laughed. Not rudely, just honestly. I didn't look like a warrior. I looked like I was one fast food runaway from a heart attack. He told me flat out, you need to lose over 100 pounds, and you've got 3 months to do it. That's the max age limit. After that, you're done. 3 months, 100 pounds. It sounded insane. But for the first time in my life, someone didn't sugarcoat anything. He gave it to me straight, cold, blunt, real. And that was exactly what I needed. I didn't go home and cry. I didn't go eat my emotions. I went home and stood in front of the mirror, not just to look, but to confront. That mirror became my enemy and my weapon. I stripped down and took it all in. My gut hung over my shorts. My chest looked like it belonged to a 70-year-old man. My face was bloated and tired. My eyes were dead. I looked like I was halfway to the grave. And I owned it. I didn't look away. I didn't soften the blow. I stared hard and said out loud, "You're a fat, lazy, lying piece of shit." It wasn't meant to be cruel. It was the truth, and it hit like a sledgehammer. But the truth doesn't destroy you. Avoiding it does. That day I made a choice. No more lies. No more blaming my father, my upbringing, my past, my environment. Yeah, all of that was real, and it hurt me. But it didn't own me. Not anymore. My life was mine now. If I failed, it was on me. If I changed, it would be because I chose to. I cleaned out my kitchen, threw away the comfort food, set my alarm for 4:30 a.m., started working out in the dark by myself. I couldn't run a quarter mile without stopping. My legs ached under the weight of my own body. My lungs felt like they were exploding. My skin chafed and bled. I wanted to quit every 5 minutes, but I didn't. because quitting meant going back to that mirror and admitting I still hadn't changed. I couldn't accept that. I started biking, swimming, despite barely knowing how to float, and cutting my food intake to almost nothing. I trained before work, after work, during lunch breaks. I worked my ass off while still doing a full-time job in pest control. I was sweating poison out of my body every day, and the voice in my head kept screaming, "You're not good enough. You'll never be a SEAL." But I kept moving anyway. Every mile I ran, every push-up I forced out, I was talking back to that voice. It wasn't just about the weight. It was about killing the version of me that had taken over for too long. The lazy me, the victim me, the weak me. I was going to bury that man. I was going to break myself down to nothing and rebuild. In 3 months, I lost over 100 pounds. No shortcuts, no special diets, no trainers, just me, the mirror, and the truth. You see, most people want to feel better, not be better. They want results, but not the work. They want transformation, but not the truth. Because truth hurts. It tears down every excuse you've ever built to protect your ego. It exposes your laziness, your fear, your self-pity. But on the other side of that pain, that's where the real you lives. Most people will never meet that person, but I was about to, because for the first time in my life, I had nothing left to hide behind. I was out of time, out of comfort, out of lies, and what I had left was the truth. Chapter 3: The Impossible Task. Signing up for Navy SEAL training wasn't just a step forward, it felt like stepping off a cliff into an abyss. I didn't know if I could survive. I was a guy who had spent most of his life running from himself, from pain, from responsibility. Now I was staring down Hell Week, the most brutal, relentless, unforgiving training in the world. 6 days that would push every inch of my body and mind to the breaking point and beyond. For almost everyone who attempts it, Hell Week is a defining moment. For many, it's the end of the road. I wasn't naive. I knew the odds were stacked against me. I was behind the pack, carrying years of baggage, mental scars from my abusive childhood, physical scars from years of neglecting my health, and a mind full of doubt and fear. The task ahead wasn't just hard. It felt impossible. The first day hit like a freight train. We plunged into freezing cold water, the Atlantic Ocean lashing us with every wave. Our bodies screamed as the cold sank deep into our bones, numbing fingers and toes until they felt like dead weight. We carried heavy boats over our heads for miles on end. We were dragged through mud, forced to crawl through razor-sharp rocks, and hammered with impossible obstacle courses designed to crush every ounce of strength we had. Sleep wasn't a luxury. It was a cruel joke. Rest was a fleeting moment, snatched in the dirt or under a sky full of stars. The instructors were relentless. They didn't care if you were tired, sick, scared, or broken. Complaints were met with more punishment. Weakness was met with scorn. They screamed orders that ripped through the cold air, and failure was not an option. Every second was a battle to keep moving forward, even when your body wanted to collapse and your mind begged for escape. I remember a particular moment, early in the week, that felt like the edge of death. My hands swollen and frostbitten, lost all feeling. My fingers refused to move like they belonged to someone else. My legs trembled uncontrollably, threatening to buckle under me. My teeth chattered violently, and I felt my body shutting down one piece at a time. I thought, this is it. I'm done. But then, somewhere deep inside, I found a quiet place, a dark refuge where pain didn't exist, where fear couldn't reach me. I focused on my breath, slowing it down, calming the chaos in my mind. That moment was the turning point. From then on, I learned to control my body and mind in ways I never thought possible. When the cold stung like fire, I reminded myself it was temporary. When exhaustion crushed me, I forced another step. When fear knocked at my door, I refused to answer. I pushed past every limit I had set for myself, breaking through barriers that had once seemed permanent. Hell Week was designed to destroy you. It strips away your ego, your pride, your sense of self. It makes you confront your deepest fears and weaknesses, but it also builds you up if you survive. Each grueling exercise, each sleepless hour, every frozen plunge into the ocean was an opportunity to redefine who I was. I was no longer that scared, broken kid. I was becoming something new, stronger, tougher, relentless. The mental game was the hardest part. The physical pain, the cold, the exhaustion, those I could handle. But the mind, that's where the real war was fought. The voice inside me that said quit was loud. It was constant. It told me I wasn't good enough, that I'd never make it, that all this suffering was pointless. But I learned to answer back, louder and fiercer. I'm not done yet. Not now. Not ever. I watched men who'd been training for years crumble and give up. I saw friends break down and quit. But I kept going, fueled not by hope or belief, but by stubborn refusal to be broken. Every step forward was a victory. Every moment I refused to quit was a rebellion against my past. By the end of those 6 days, I was a different man. Hell Week had smashed me to pieces and put me back together with stronger glue. I wasn't just physically tougher, I was mentally unstoppable. The impossible task had been conquered, not because I was the strongest or the fastest, but because I refused to let the pain, fear, and doubt control me. Hell Week taught me that limits are illusions. The body can be pushed far beyond what we think is possible if the mind is willing to lead. It showed me that suffering isn't something to avoid, it's a tool to be mastered. Pain is not the enemy. Quitting is. That week didn't just make me a SEAL candidate. It made me a warrior in every sense of the word. It was the moment I stopped being a victim of my past and started owning my future. The impossible had become possible because I made it so. And from that point on, I knew this truth. The only thing standing between you and your impossible task is your willingness to suffer through it. No matter how brutal, how cold, how dark it gets, if you keep moving forward, you will become unstoppable. Chapter 4, Taking Souls. In Navy SEAL training, the battle isn't just physical, it's a war for your very soul. The instructors know that muscles alone won't get you through the worst. What they want is to break your spirit, to crush your confidence, and to strip away every shred of will you have left. They call it taking souls, and it's the most relentless, brutal form of psychological warfare you'll ever experience. It's designed to tear you apart from the inside out and see if there's anything left when the dust settles. Taking souls isn't about one big moment. It's a slow, grinding assault that chips away at you bit by bit. It's the voice inside your head whispering that you're worthless when your body is too exhausted to fight back. It's the freezing cold that seeps into your bones and the hunger gnawing at your stomach when you haven't eaten in hours. It's the endless mud and the biting wind that makes you feel like the world itself is against you. It's the instructors screaming at you for mistakes you didn't even know you were making, mocking you in front of your peers, pushing you so far past your limits that your mind starts to fracture. I was targeted from the very beginning, not because I was weak, I was far from the strongest, but because I was smaller, slower, and carrying a mountain of doubt and fear. The instructors saw the kid from Indiana hiding inside me and tried to pull him out, to break him down and crush his spirit. They wanted to see if I could be reduced to nothing. The pain was unbearable. Every hour of Hell Week, every freezing swim, every exhausting log carry, every sleepless night was accompanied by their words, cold, cutting, relentless. You're nothing. You don't belong here. You're weak. At first, those words landed like punches. I felt small and defeated. I questioned whether I was strong enough to survive. But deep inside, I made a choice. I would not let them take my soul. Taking souls isn't about fighting with anger or yelling back. That just gives the enemy what they want. It's about being quiet and unshakable in the face of chaos. It's about holding on to yourself when the world tries to rip you apart. When the instructors screamed in my face, I didn't respond with noise. I responded with calm. When they tried to humiliate me, I kept my head down and focused on the fight inside. Every insult was fuel. Every punishment was a chance to grow stronger. When they forced me to do hundreds of push-ups, crawl through mud, and carry heavy logs over and over, I told myself, this is mine. I will not give them my soul. I learned to silence the doubt, to turn pain into power, and to build a fortress inside where no one could reach me. This mental battle was far harder than any physical test. Your body can heal, your muscles can recover, but once your soul is taken, there's no coming back. That's why I fought harder than ever to protect it, because protecting my soul was protecting my future. I remember a night when the cold was so brutal I thought my fingers would snap off. I was shaking uncontrollably, sitting in the mud, numb and exhausted. The instructors were screaming, pushing us beyond what I thought humanly possible. I felt completely crushed. Every part of me wanted to quit, to give in, to disappear. But then a thought broke through the haze. You decide if they take your soul. You control this. That single thought became my anchor. Instead of letting the pain swallow me, I leaned into it. Instead of running from fear, I used it. I focused on my breath, slowed my racing mind, and found a place inside where no one could touch me. A place of quiet strength and defiance. Over and over, I returned to that place. When my muscles screamed and my lungs burned, I pushed harder. When my mind begged me to quit, I fought back louder. I studied my own thoughts, learning to train my brain as hard as my body. I built a mental armor no one could penetrate. Taking souls isn't about winning a single battle. It's about surviving every assault on your spirit and refusing to give an inch. It's about becoming untouchable mentally, even when your body is crumbling. It's about standing tall when everyone else falls. By the end of Hell Week, I wasn't just physically tougher, I was mentally invincible. My spirit had been tested, torn apart, and rebuilt stronger than ever. I learned that pain can be your weapon, suffering your tool, endurance your power. If you want to succeed in life, you have to understand this. The hardest fight isn't outside, it's inside. Your soul is the battlefield. Protect it with everything you've got. When you refuse to give your soul away, no one on earth can defeat you. That's what being a warrior truly means. That's what taking souls is all about. Chapter 5, Armored Mind. If you walk into Navy SEAL training thinking that sheer physical strength and endurance will carry you through, you're dead wrong. The battle you face is not only with your body, it's a brutal war within your own mind. The pain, the exhaustion, the mental anguish, these are the true enemies, far more dangerous than any obstacle course or freezing ocean. To survive and thrive, you need what I call an armored mind. This isn't just a mindset. It's a fortress of mental toughness so impenetrable that no hardship can break you down. The armored mind isn't something you're born with. It's something you build brick by brick through relentless practice, self-awareness, and raw determination. It's forged in the fire of experience, pain, and challenge. Every step of Navy SEAL training, especially Hell Week, is designed to chip away at your spirit. The instructors use every trick in the book to tear you down. Starvation, sleeplessness, freezing temperatures, endless physical punishment, and psychological warfare. They push you beyond human limits to see if your mind will crack or hold firm. Early in my training, I realized the toughest battles weren't against the ocean or the obstacle course. They were against the chaos inside my own head. Memories of abuse, deep-seated fears, and years of self-doubt bombarded me when I was weakest. The panic attacks, the overwhelming desire to quit, the crushing weight of despair, those were the real enemies. If I let those take control, everything would collapse. So I made a decision. I would armor my mind, no matter what it took. The first tool I developed was control over my breathing. It sounds simple, but breathing is the gateway to your nervous system. When fear and panic flood your body, your breath shortens and quickens, sending your mind into overdrive. I learned to take deep, slow breaths to calm the storm inside. This simple practice became a life raft during the darkest moments, allowing me to slow my racing heart, steady my thoughts, and regain control when everything felt like it was falling apart. Next came transforming my inner dialogue. The human mind is a powerful storyteller, but those stories can either empower or destroy you. I learned to replace destructive thoughts with purposeful affirmations. When pain became unbearable, I told myself, this is temporary. When doubt crept in, I reminded myself, you have overcome worse. When the voice of defeat whispered, give up, I answered, not today. These mantras became mental armor, deflecting negativity and fueling relentless forward motion. Another essential part of the armored mind is mastering the present moment. The past was filled with pain, mistakes, and trauma I couldn't change. The future was uncertain and terrifying. But I realized the only thing I could control was the here and now. Each breath, each step, each push-up. Anchoring myself in the present allowed me to silence the noise of regret and fear, focusing every ounce of my energy on the immediate challenge. The training also demanded emotional control. The instructors knew how to provoke anger, frustration, and despair. Their goal was to rattle us so completely that we lost ourselves in the chaos. But I learned to feel these emotions without letting them dictate my actions. I didn't suppress fear or pain. I acknowledged them, accepted them, but refused to let them control me. Instead of reacting impulsively, I responded with discipline and clarity. This emotional mastery became one of the toughest shields I could wear. Building an armored mind didn't happen overnight. It took daily effort, repeated mental drills, and a willingness to confront my own weaknesses head on. Every time I wanted to quit but pushed forward, my armor grew thicker. Every time I controlled my breath when panic threatened, every time I replaced doubt with resolve, I fortified my mental defenses. What separates those who finish Navy SEAL training from those who quit isn't physical strength. It's the armored mind. When your mind is armored, pain becomes manageable, fear becomes fuel, and exhaustion becomes just another obstacle. Your mental resilience outlasts any physical hardship. By the time I completed training, I understood that my mind was my greatest weapon. The body can only carry you so far. It's the mind that directs, drives, and decides how far you will go. A weak mind can cripple even the strongest body, but an armored mind can turn a broken, battered body into an unstoppable force. This armored mind isn't just a tool for SEALs, it's a weapon for life. It's what allows you to face rejection, failure, loss, and hardship without losing yourself. It's what lets you stand tall when everything inside you screams to collapse. It's the foundation for true resilience, unshakable confidence, and unwavering purpose. If you want to conquer your own hells, build an armored mind. Guard your soul fiercely. Train your thoughts like your life depends on it, because it does. When your mind is truly armored, no storm can break you. No obstacle is too great. No fear is undefeatable. That is the power of the armored mind. It transforms you from a victim of circumstance into a master of your fate. It makes the impossible possible. It makes you unstoppable. Chapter 6, it's not about a trophy. When I first walked into Navy SEAL training, I had one thing on my mind: earn the badge. That shiny SEAL trident, that symbol of triumph and elite status, felt like the ultimate prize. I thought all the pain, the sleepless nights, the freezing cold, and the mental torture would finally make sense once I held that little metal piece in my hands. To me, it was everything. The reason to fight through hell was the trophy waiting at the end of the line. But Hell Week tore that illusion apart. It ripped away every shallow motivation I had. By the time I made it to the end, I understood that the trophy was meaningless compared to what I had truly gained. Because this journey, this war, it's never about the trophy. It's never about what the world can see or recognize. It's about the battle inside, the struggle that no one watches, no one applauds, and no one cares about except you. You see, the badge, the medals, the trophies, they are just symbols. They're nothing without the fire that forged them, without the scars, the sweat, the pain, and the brokenness that led up to them. The real reward lies deep inside. It's in every second you fight the voices telling you you're not enough. It's in the moments when your body is screaming to stop, but your mind forces you to keep going. It's in the relentless refusal to surrender when the world tries to crush you. I watched men around me break because their motivation was fragile. They chased glory, approval, and validation from others. They needed trophies to feel worthy. When the training crushed them, when the hope of the trophy faded, they gave up. Their why was built on sand, washed away by pain and exhaustion. Their fire flickered and died because it was fueled by external rewards, not internal conviction. That lesson hit me hard. Motivation tied to anything outside yourself can vanish in a heartbeat. But when your reason is rooted deep inside, when you fight to prove to yourself that you are bigger than your past, stronger than your fears, and more worthy than your pain, then no force on earth can stop you. That inner fire is a hurricane. It will sweep away every obstacle. The journey is lonely and brutal. There will be nights when the cold bites so hard you can't feel your fingers or toes, when your body trembles uncontrollably and every muscle aches, when your mind begs you to quit, to surrender, to give in. But it's in these moments that you learn what the trophy really is, the transformation of your soul. Chasing trophies is a distraction from this transformation. The real victory isn't a medal, it's who you become in the process. It's the person who refuses to quit despite fear, pain, and doubt. It's the one who rises when everyone else falls. It's the person who owns their story and refuses to be defined by it. It's about forging a resilience so deep that nothing can break you. Every failure, every hardship, every unbearable moment was a chance to build strength, not just physical, but mental and emotional. The real win was becoming someone who doesn't quit, who takes responsibility for their life, who moves forward with unshakable purpose and fierce determination. When I finally earned the Seal Trident, I saw it for what it truly was, a symbol of every internal battle fought and won. It represented the armor I built around my mind and spirit, the limits I shattered, the warrior I became. It was proof not of how many push ups or swims I completed, but of how many times I stood up when everything inside me said to fall. This truth is bigger than Navy SEAL training. It applies to all of life's battles, whether you're fighting addiction, chasing a dream, overcoming loss, or facing your darkest fears. Don't waste your energy chasing trophies or recognition. Those are fleeting. Instead, build your strength inside. Find your why, deep within, a fire that no one can extinguish. When your motivation is anchored in that inner purpose, you become unstoppable. External trophies become meaningless extras compared to the transformation burning inside you. That armored mind, that unbreakable spirit, that's the real prize, the true trophy worth every drop of pain. Remember this always. It's never about a trophy. It's about the fight, the pain, the growth, and the ironclad refusal to quit. Live with that mindset, and success is not just possible, it's inevitable. You don't just earn trophies, you earn yourself. Chapter 7, The Most Powerful Weapon. In every grueling moment of Navy SEAL training and throughout every challenge I've faced in life, one lesson has stood above all others. The most powerful weapon you have isn't your muscles, your speed, or your technical skills. It's your mind. Your mind is the engine driving every action, every decision, every survival instinct. It's the force that determines whether you collapse under pressure or rise beyond your limits. Mastering your mind is not just important, it's absolutely essential. It's the difference between defeat and victory, between giving up and pushing through, between being a victim of circumstance and being the architect of your own destiny. When Hell Week hit, my body was pushed beyond what I thought was possible. My muscles screamed, my lungs gasped for air, and every bone ached with exhaustion. Yet, despite all this physical destruction, it wasn't my body that almost broke. It was my mind. The battle raging inside my head was far fiercer than any external challenge. The mind had the power to surrender and bring my whole world crashing down, or to steel itself and drag my battered body forward step by agonizing step. The mind was the final line of defense, and it was up to me whether I stood or fell. The mind controls your perception of reality. Pain is inevitable, but how much it controls you is a choice your mind makes. Fatigue will come, but your mind decides whether you're finished or just getting started. Fear will grip your heart, but your mind chooses whether to let it freeze you in place or to harness it as fuel. The outside world can batter your body, but it's inside your mind that the true war is fought and won. I learned that the mind has an almost supernatural ability to reshape everything: your body, your experience, your fate. When I told myself I'm stronger than this, my aching muscles found new energy. When I reminded myself that pain is temporary, it became something I could endure rather than something I feared. When I focused on what I could control, my breath, my steps, my attitude, instead of what I couldn't, my entire reality shifted. The mind can transform weakness into strength, hopelessness into hope, and failure into a launching pad for growth. But mastering the mind isn't a simple process. It's one of the toughest battles you'll ever face because your mind is the most cunning and relentless opponent. It requires brutal honesty, being willing to look at your fears, your doubts, your failures without flinching. It demands relentless practice, training your brain with the same discipline you apply to your body. It means recognizing the mental traps of negativity and self-doubt and consciously rewriting the story your mind tells itself. It means creating mental habits so powerful that they drown out the voice of defeat and amplify the voice of resilience. The most powerful weapon is more than just raw willpower or positive thinking. Those alone aren't enough. They're fragile and fleeting. This weapon is built on self-awareness, discipline, and emotional mastery. It's about knowing the workings of your own mind so well that you can spot when fear or negativity creeps in. It's about instantly resetting your focus, calming your heart, and clearing the storm in your head. It's about building mental resilience so unbreakable that no external force, no matter how brutal, can shake your inner peace and determination. This weapon, the mind, carried me through endless nights of freezing cold and unbearable exhaustion. It pulled me back from the edge when my body wanted to quit. It gave me the strength to keep moving when every instinct screamed to stop. It's what allowed me to face challenges that felt impossible and to conquer them. And here's the thing, this weapon isn't reserved for Navy SEALs or elite warriors. It's inside everyone. But most people never learn to use it, never train it, and so they remain trapped by fear, doubt, and limitation. If you want to be truly powerful, if you want to live a life that defies odds and shatters ceilings, you must build this weapon within yourself. Start by training your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. Practice controlling your breath when panic hits. Practice redirecting your thoughts when doubt arises. Practice embracing discomfort and pain as teachers, not enemies. Practice waking up every day with intention and choosing who you want to be despite the chaos around you. When you master your mind, you gain control over your reality. Your mind shapes your experience far more than your circumstances ever could. The most powerful weapon you have can turn the impossible into the possible. It can transform brokenness into strength and despair into unstoppable drive. So protect it fiercely. Train it relentlessly. Armor it with discipline and awareness. Because once your mind becomes your greatest weapon, nothing in this world can stop you. Not pain, not fear, not failure. You become the master of your fate, the captain of your soul, and the hero of your story. Chapter 8, Talent Not Required. For the longest time, I was trapped and liminally destroyed my chances of success. That talent was everything. I thought that some people were simply born with gifts, natural strength, speed, intelligence, or skill that set them apart from the rest of us. I believed that if you weren't born with these rare advantages, you were doomed to fail or at best remain average for life. This misconception became a self-imposed prison that stifled my confidence and motivation. I doubted myself constantly, and as a result, I held back from chasing my full potential because I assumed I didn't have the right stuff. When I showed up for Navy SEAL training, that belief was tested and then broken over and over again. I was surrounded by men who seemed to possess everything I thought I lacked. They were faster, stronger, smarter, and more skilled. Their natural abilities made difficult tasks seem effortless. It was easy to feel outmatched and to believe that I didn't stand a chance. But I quickly learned a brutal truth that changed everything. Talent is a small piece of the puzzle. What separates the winners from the quitters is not talent. It's grit, perseverance, and an iron will to endure. The training was designed to push every candidate past their physical and mental limits, to crush illusions and expose true character. And in that crucible, raw talent proved fragile. Some of the most talented guys dropped out early because they couldn't handle the mental and emotional torture. Their gifts meant nothing without the relentless drive to push through pain, fatigue, and fear. Meanwhile, those with less natural ability but more heart, more stubbornness to keep going, pressed on, defying every limit placed before them. Talent is overrated, and it's a comforting excuse. When people fail, they often blame a lack of natural ability because it's easier than facing the hard truth that success requires brutal effort and sacrifice. The belief that talent is a prerequisite can become a barrier itself, convincing people to quit before they've even started because they think they're not good enough. But the reality is clear. Talent might give you a head start, but it doesn't guarantee you'll cross the finish line. Talent without hard work is meaningless. On the other hand, effort and persistence can make up for a lack of natural skill. I watched this unfold repeatedly during training. Those who showed up every day, who refused to quit no matter how bad it got, who pushed past their own pain and doubt, those were the ones who earned their place at the end. I call the mindset that wins the calloused mind. Just like your hands develop calluses from repeated hard labor, your mind hardens through facing adversity. This mental toughness isn't something you're born with. It's something you build deliberately by embracing discomfort, pushing past pain, and refusing to give in. Anyone willing to commit to this process can develop a calloused mind, regardless of their natural talent. Changing my focus from I'm not talented enough to, I will outwork everyone else, was the single most important mindset shift in my life. It moved my attention away from what I lacked to what I could control: my effort, my discipline, my daily habits. Instead of waiting for talent to magically appear, I decided to show up every day and outwork everyone around me. That simple but powerful choice turned my entire world upside down. Understand this: talent is not required. It is not the key that unlocks success. What opens that door is grit, the fierce determination to push through every setback, to keep going when your body and mind scream stop, to learn from failure and use it as fuel. Talent is fragile and fades if not nurtured. Grit is a lifelong strength that grows with every challenge you overcome. The myth of talent is one of the most destructive lies society tells itself. It convinces people they are limited by birth instead of empowered by effort. Don't fall for it. Embrace the harder, more rewarding truth. Success is earned through sweat, persistence, and unbreakable spirit. When you adopt this mindset, talent becomes irrelevant. Your relentless effort becomes your greatest asset. So don't wait for talent. Build your calloused mind. Work harder than anyone else, even when you don't feel like it. Show up when it hurts. Push through fear and failure. Because when you do, you become unstoppable. You become the person who turns impossible dreams into reality, not because you were born talented, but because you refuse to quit. Remember this every day. Talent isn't required, but grit, perseverance, and a calloused mind, those are everything. Chapter 9: Uncommon Amongst Uncommon. In the world of Navy SEALs, where the stakes are life and death and only the most elite survive, being good enough simply isn't good enough. Here, you're not just competing against the average person off the street. You're competing against the best of the best, the strongest, fastest, most mentally tough people the world has to offer. When you step into this arena, you realize quickly that the baseline is already set incredibly high. But if you want to truly stand out, to rise above even this extraordinary group, you have to become uncommon amongst uncommon. This means pushing past limits that most elite athletes, soldiers, or professionals wouldn't dare cross. It means refusing to settle for anything less than absolute excellence every single day, even when your mind and body scream to stop. When I first arrived at SEAL training, my mindset was that making it through was the ultimate goal. I thought that just surviving Hell Week and earning the SEAL Trident would be enough. I was proud, but I quickly realized that this was only the beginning. The real battle was internal, a constant war to be better than the best, to refuse complacency and to raise my standards far beyond what anyone expected, including myself. You quickly learn that everyone around you is exceptional. They've already proven their strength, intelligence, and toughness. So what separates the champions from the also-rans is who can dig deeper, push harder, and endure longer. Being uncommon amongst uncommon is a mindset, a way of life. It means showing up before dawn, training harder when everyone else is done. It means making sacrifices in every area of your life: social, comfort, sleep, and leisure. It means embracing pain and discomfort as your teachers rather than your enemies. It means working on your weaknesses relentlessly while sharpening your strengths until they're razor sharp. It means holding yourself accountable to standards that would seem insane to most people. It's about refusing to ever settle for good enough because you know deep down you're capable of more. This mindset doesn't just separate you from the average person, it separates you from the elite. When you're surrounded by people who are already the best, how do you rise above? You become relentless. You cultivate discipline that no one else can match. You develop mental toughness so strong that setbacks, failures, and pain become fuel instead of obstacles. You become a force of nature, unwavering, unstoppable, and unbreakable. I witnessed this countless times during SEAL training. Some men had incredible physical gifts but lacked the mental edge. They faltered under pressure or gave up when things got really tough. Others weren't the strongest or fastest, but they were relentless. They showed up every day, pushed through pain, failure, and exhaustion, and refused to quit. These were the men who became the few who make it through the crucible. They were uncommon among uncommon. This principle goes far beyond military training. It applies to every field, every endeavor, and every challenge in life. Whether you're an entrepreneur trying to build a business, an athlete pushing for a championship, or anyone seeking to rise above mediocrity, you must adopt this mindset. Being uncommon amongst uncommon means setting higher standards than anyone else expects, demanding more from yourself than anyone else demands, and taking full ownership of your growth and results. But make no mistake, this path is grueling. It's lonely and brutal. It requires sacrifice and an unrelenting commitment to excellence. You will have to face your fears, your weaknesses, and your doubts. You will have to do things others won't. Train harder, learn more, recover faster, and dig deeper. You will have to push past every excuse, every setback, and every limit. This kind of life isn't for everyone, yet the rewards are profound. When you live as someone who is uncommon amongst uncommon, you become a leader. You inspire others without saying a word. You raise the bar for what's possible and set new standards in your field. You become a person others look to when the going gets tough because they know you don't quit. You create a legacy of excellence that lasts far beyond any trophy or title. So if you truly want to stand out, not just in the crowd, but among the elite, embrace this challenge. Be relentless. Be disciplined. Be fierce in your pursuit of excellence. Hold yourself to the highest standards, even when no one is watching. Push yourself farther than you think possible. Live with the mindset of being uncommon amongst uncommon. Because greatness isn't found by those who settle. It belongs to those who fight tooth and nail for it every single day. It belongs to those who refuse to blend in with the crowd of talented and gifted people around them. It belongs to those who dig deeper, work harder, and refuse to quit. This is the mindset that creates legends, breaks barriers, and changes the world. This is your call. Step up. Be uncommon amongst uncommon. Become the best version of yourself, no matter the cost. Because when you do, you don't just succeed, you dominate. Chapter 10, The Empowerment of Failure. Failure. Just the word itself makes most people uncomfortable. It's loaded with shame, disappointment, and fear. From a young age, we're taught to avoid failure, to see it as something negative, a sign that we didn't measure up or weren't good enough. I was no different. I used to dread failure, equate it with defeat, and think that once you failed, you were finished. That was it. Game over. But my experience in Navy SEAL training, along with everything life has thrown at me since, shattered that limited view and revealed a far more powerful truth. Failure is not your enemy. Failure is your greatest teacher, your most honest feedback, and if you let it be, your greatest source of empowerment. From the moment I began training to become a Navy SEAL, failure became a constant presence. Every day I faced tests that pushed my body and mind to their absolute limits. I failed timed runs, I failed obstacle courses, I failed mental tests and physical challenges. I struggled to keep up with others, and many times I simply didn't measure up. It wasn't just the physical failure that hurt, it was the mental sting of falling short of my own expectations and the relentless pressure to perform. But what I learned quickly was that failure was inevitable, and the only choice I had was how I responded to it. The men who succeeded weren't those who never failed. They were the ones who used failure as fuel. Each time I failed, instead of letting it break me, I decided to learn from it. I dissected every mistake, every shortcoming, and figured out what it was trying to teach me. Failure became the raw, unfiltered feedback I desperately needed to improve. It was the compass pointing me toward growth, showing me where I was weak and what I needed to do next. This shift in perspective turned failure from a source of shame into a powerful tool for progress. Most people avoid failure at all costs. They hide it, deny it, or pretend it never happened. They build their lives around the illusion of perfection and success, afraid to risk anything that might expose their flaws. But this avoidance is the greatest barrier to growth. Failure, when embraced and understood, is one of the most valuable experiences you can have. It strips away illusions and forces you to confront reality. It forces you out of your comfort zone and into a place where real change happens. Mental toughness is born in failure. Every time I failed a test or fell short, I had to pick myself up and keep going. The act of rising after a setback, time after time, built a resilience I never thought possible. It taught me that failure is temporary. It's not a reflection of who you are, but a part of the process of becoming who you need to be. Failure humbled me and demanded honesty. I had to face my weaknesses without excuses or denial. That kind of brutal self-awareness was the foundation for real strength. Failure also taught me patience and humility. It shattered any arrogance I had and forced me to respect the long, difficult journey toward success. Nothing worth achieving comes quickly or easily. Success is a slow, grinding process made up of countless failures, lessons learned, and adjustments made. Accepting failure means embracing the journey itself, not just the end goal. Once you empower yourself to fail, something incredible happens. You lose the paralyzing fear of failure. Fear of failure is the biggest obstacle holding most people back. It keeps them stuck, afraid to try, afraid to risk, afraid to step into the unknown. But when you accept failure as a natural, necessary part of growth, when you see it as a sign you're pushing your limits, that fear loses its grip. You become unstoppable because failure no longer means the end. It means progress. This change in mindset transformed my life. I went from being terrified of failure to welcoming it. I learned to see failure as proof I was moving forward, testing my limits and growing stronger. Failure ignited my creativity and innovation because it forced me to try new approaches, learn new skills, and adapt faster than anyone else. Without failure, there is no mastery, no progress, no breakthroughs. Failure forces you to adapt, to evolve, to find new solutions. It's the crucible that tempers the strongest minds and the toughest spirits. Here's what failure really is. Failure is an experiment. It's a test of limits, a learning experience, and a stepping stone on the path to mastery. Each failure brings new data: what works, what doesn't, where you need to adjust. The most successful people in the world are those who fail often but fail forward. They learn from every stumble and use it to propel themselves ahead. Failure also rewires your brain. When you confront failure and choose to persist, you build neural pathways that reinforce resilience, grit, and determination. Over time, this rewiring helps you face new challenges with confidence rather than fear. You start seeing failure as part of your identity, not as someone who gives up, but as someone who fights back harder every time. Another powerful aspect of failure is the humility it teaches. Humility is crucial because it opens you up to learning. When you're humble, you're willing to admit mistakes, accept feedback, and grow. Arrogance and pride block growth because they prevent you from seeing where you need to improve. Failure humbles you, knocks you down to size, and gives you the perspective needed to climb higher. Failure is also a source of courage. Each time you fail and keep going, you build courage for the next challenge. It's like building a muscle. Facing fear and failure repeatedly strengthens your ability to act in spite of them. Courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you move forward despite the fear. The empowerment of failure means learning to see it as fuel for your journey rather than a sign of defeat. It means reframing failure as a necessary part of success. It means being willing to risk, to fall, to stumble, and to rise again, all stronger and wiser. It means taking ownership of your failures without shame and using them as the foundation for your comeback. When you learn to empower failure, you take back control. You stop letting fear dictate your actions. You embrace challenges with open eyes, knowing that failure is a sign you're stretching, growing, and becoming more than you were yesterday. I challenge you to change your relationship with failure. Stop running from it. Stop fearing it. Stop letting it define you. Instead, embrace failure fully. Study it. Learn from it. Use it to sharpen your skills and strengthen your resolve. When you do, failure stops being a weakness and becomes your greatest strength. Remember, every successful person has failed more times than you can count. What sets them apart is that they chose to keep going. They let failure teach them, empower them, and fuel their rise. This is the secret weapon that can transform your life too. Failure isn't the end, it's the beginning of your next level. Use it to become unstoppable.